Jurassic World Rebirth has given us plenty to talk about over the past nearly 2 months of release. Within that time, we've discussed the dinosaurs of the movie, the plot errors, and also some of the characters, which I highly recommend you check out for yourself. In today's video, I want to talk a little bit about the darker side of this movie and some hidden plot details we may have missed throughout it. We did something similar for Jurassic World Dominion when that first came out, as we discovered a random skull in the movie and connected the dots between that and a single sentence in some external canonical media. But today, well, this one was a little bit more tricky. I want to talk about the crashed helicopter in Jurassic World Rebirth. No, not that one. But instead, this one. The one that looks as though it had been there for months, maybe even years. Today, I think I have worked out exactly what happened here and what went wrong and how exactly the pilot of the aircraft died. And spoiler alert, it's not in a pleasant way. So make sure you're sat back and relaxed with your snacks at the go, as it's time to discuss what really happened to this helicopter and crew in Jurassic World Rebirth. Let's first establish what we actually see in the movie. The wreckage itself is never addressed directly in dialogue, it's just there, suspended awkwardly in the trees, rusted, broken, with a body still strapped in holding a gun. That's it. Now, Jurassic films don't usually waste visuals like this. If there's a wreckage, bones, or a random skull scattered about, it's almost always a form of storytelling shorthand. Think back to Jurassic World Dominion, where we spotted the bones of a random person within a Dimetrodon's cave, or even in Fallen Kingdom, which opened with a full salvage mission for the Indominus Rex DNA. Universal loves environmental storytelling with this franchise. I mean, sure, you could easily say that it's just there so Martin can have a gun later on, but this helicopter being here is deliberate for more purposes. It's not a random prop, and that raises a few questions. Who flew it, why were they there, and what killed them? To answer that, let's rewind to Fallen Kingdom and Camp Cretaceous. That film and show both showed us very clearly that InGen and other groups will go back to an abandoned island for retrieval missions. In Camp Cretaceous, it was about taking dinosaurs from Isla Sorna to their own Manticorp Island, and in Fallen Kingdom, it was about extracting the Indominus Rex rib bone for genetic material. So let's apply that logic to Rebirth. The Distortus Rex, also known as the D-Rex, was bred years before back in 2010 and then broke out in 2011. We know that it rampaged across the facility, forcing InGen to abandon the island later on. But would they really just leave it all behind? No chance. Martin even says that these failed creatures cost so much money that instead of euthanizing them, they carry them over into R&D. It's almost certain that someone, maybe InGen themselves, or maybe even a contracted salvage crew, attempted a mission to go back and collect the DNA or biological samples. Just like they did in Fallen Kingdom, they would see that the asset is far too valuable to just leave rotting behind on an island. This frames the helicopter perfectly. It wasn't just some random supply run, it was likely a retrieval mission for possibly D-Rex DNA or something similar. So why would they use a helicopter? Well, for two main reasons: speed and access, and easy evacuation fallback. Boats are slower and more vulnerable near the coast, especially with the Mosasaurus and Spinosaurus swimming around. Helicopters can just cut straight across the island and land near the labs and extract very quickly. If a small ground team are also needed in an emergency pickup, a helicopter would be their only way out fast enough. So it makes sense that a DNA salvage team would arrive this way. They'd either drop near the facility or hover above the canopy while the crew rappelled down, similar to how Fallen Kingdom staged its similar opening. But clearly, something went wrong with this mission. But now comes the fun part. What actually caused the crash? Well, there are two strong contenders here, and I think they're fairly obvious. Let's start with the first one, the Distortus Rex. From a filmmaking perspective, this makes a lot of sense. The helicopter foreshadows what we see later on in the film, with the D-Rex destroying the extraction helicopter in the climax. The wreck is a visual setup and a warning that this predator has a history of ripping aircrafts out of the sky. But then there's also another angle, and I think that this angle is the more logical version. The Mutodons. We are aware that the Mutodons can fly around the island, and we even see one of the Mutadons acknowledge one of the helicopters in the movie. Maybe earlier in the decade, they felt threatened by this helicopter, causing that to crash. We also only see one pilot in the cockpit, so maybe the other pilot was attacked whilst flying, and that's why we don't see anyone else with this skeleton. But after the crash, what exactly happened? Well, let's think about the positioning of the wreck. It's high enough in the trees that ground animals like velociraptors couldn't reach it without jumping, but for a climbing predator with wings like the Mutadon, absolutely perfect, and they are also slightly bigger in size to the raptors as well. These creatures are shown later to be capable of ambushing from above and overwhelming prey in tight and dark spaces. If the helicopter had engine troubles or was forced low by weather, the Mutadons could have easily just swarmed it, claw at the cockpit and cause chaos inside. The wreckage being tangled in the canopy actually matches this theory more than the direct D-Rex attack. So what's my take? Well, the D-Rex theory works as a film foreshadowing aspect, but in universe, the Mutadon attack makes much more logical sense. So now let's talk about that skeleton, what exactly happened to him, because I guarantee most of you guys are here for that. In the wreck, we see a man with a handgun. Some people argue that he may have killed himself out of fear, desperation, or to avoid being eaten. That is possible given the circumstances and the weapon in hand, but if we line it up with what we know about the Mutadons, there's a more brutal explanation here. Picture this. The helicopter crashes, at least one survivor is left dangling inside. He draws his gun, trying to fight off the creatures climbing the fuselage, but ultimately he's overwhelmed. The gun stays gripped in his hand, a useless defense against multiple attackers. And this is where we can pull a parallel to Jurassic Park 3. Remember Ben Hildebrand? Well, a lot of you may not actually know how he died. He was obviously killed off screen and left dangling. We see his skeleton is still attached to the parachute he was using as they crashed on Sauna. Well, it's actually confirmed that he died by a pack of velociraptors clawing at his body whilst he was dangling there alive, and eventually met his fate in a very gruesome manner. Now this information isn't well known, but I won't doubt the fact that there's a possibility here that the filmmakers may have been deliberately mirroring that exact moment from Jurassic Park 3, only this time with a new species. So I don't think the death is suicide, it's instead being eaten alive by Mutadons, matching a similar way to Ben died all those years ago. And then this is where we can start to appreciate the scene as it becomes a lot more clever. The wreck does three things at once. It builds the lore, it shows InGen made another attempt to salvage the island and failed. There's also foreshadowing here, hinting at both the D-Rex and Mutadon threats before we formally encounter them in the movie. And then it also sets the tone. It communicates that this place is a graveyard of human ambition. Helicopters, labs, and guns mean nothing against the creatures here. It's subtle, but it fits with Rebirth's attempt to reset the Jurassic formula, using a visual detail to communicate larger truths and threats. So when exactly did this happen? Well, my best estimate must be sometime in the early 2020s. The way I see it is that InGen abandons the island after the D-Rex incident in 2011, but as dinosaurs became more prevalent in this world after 2018, I believe that someone saw an opportunity here and remembered the D-Rex back on Isla Saint Hubert. So perhaps they needed it for something with the world now full of dinosaurs. Whether that be DNA, R&D, selling off an actual D-Rex specimen, you choose. But they crash, fail, and the island is permanently sealed off, which explains why by the year of 2028, the wreck looks so weathered and overgrown. It's been there for at least half a decade now, untouched by anyone and anything other than nature. So if this theory is right, it actually says a lot about Jurassic World Rebirth. They risked lives to recover their experiments. The Mutadons were probably responsible for wiping out entire crews, not just isolated scientists, and by the time our protagonists arrive, the island has a hidden graveyard of human failures. This helicopter being just one of them that we got to see. Maybe many more we didn't even get to see in the movie. There's a reason why this island is governed by security, and when you deep it, it adds to the horror element of the film. You're not just walking into a dinosaur-infested island, you're walking into a place littered with ghosts of people who tried and failed before you. But since we like to delve deeper and speculate into theories about this universe here on the channel, let's make one final point and answer why the film left it unexplained. Why just leave it in the background with no further explanation? Well, two main reasons. The mystery factor. Sometimes not explaining everything makes a world feel larger and more dangerous. And then obviously a sequel potential, which everything is a sequel potential these days. By simply just dropping details like this, Universal leaves the door open for expanded canon, novelizations, comics, or even flashbacks in the future movies. This happens in stuff like Marvel, and I won't be surprised if it can happen in Jurassic as well. So while we don't get a direct answer, the ambiguity lets the fans, like us, piece it together. So to wrap it up, the crashed helicopter in Jurassic World Rebirth wasn't just a random set piece. It was most likely a DNA retrieval mission, similar to the Indominus bone recovery in Fallen Kingdom. The crew probably came to salvage D-Rex genetic material, but the island had other plans. The crash could be read as a foreshadowing of the D-Rex's power, but in this universe, I believe the Mutadons make more of a sense to be the culprits. Their climbing skills, ability to fly, and the pack tactics that they have because of Velociraptor DNA explains the helicopter's placement and the fate of the gunman inside, likely eaten alive just like Ben Hildebrand was in Jurassic Park 3. It's environmental storytelling at its best, a silent reminder that this island has been claiming lives for years, and it sets the stage perfectly for what happens later in the movie. But what do you think? Was it the D-Rex, the Mutadons, or maybe even something else entirely that caused this crash? Let me know in the comments below because I'd love to hear your theories. But if you have nothing to say, then just comment a dinosaur emoji for the sake of engagement. And if you enjoyed today's theory video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already done so for your daily dose of Jurassic content here on YouTube, and why not check out the other Jurassic World Rebirth videos I've made on the dinosaurs, the plot details, and more from this franchise. But most importantly, make sure you're all staying safe out there, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye. Hey, did you enjoy the video? Well, why not leave a like and subscribe for more Jurassic content? I appreciate every single one of you for reaching this point into the video and supporting me this far. If you wish to support me even further, then feel free to head on down to the description where you can find links to donate, my Patreon, and you can also press that join button to become a member here on YouTube and gain access to some awesome emojis. A massive thank you to all of the YouTube members for this month, as well as the amazing fans over on Patreon too. Your extra bit of support really goes a long way. But for now, I wish you a great rest of your day.